All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So in this one, I wanted to break down the 2023 NFL Draft for the New York Jets, giving out specific letter grades for each prospect that was picked. But quickly, I do want to give just my overview on the draft, right? I haven't really talked a lot about this. Of course, I did the reactions and whatnot, but I think as a whole, this draft class, I was expecting a different approach personally. I was thinking, hey, Aaron Rodgers, 39 years old, will turn 40 in the season. The Jets have traded away a lot of draft picks, including essentially a future first-round pick. We don't know how long Rodgers is going to be playing for the team. I was really expecting Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh to utilize this class on guys that maybe lean more towards major positions of need, guys that'll definitely help in the short term, maybe not the highest ceiling guys, but really high floors, essentially safe players that can step in and start right away. That wasn't really the case. To me, it really seemed like Joe Douglas and Saleh wanted to go after high upside, physically gifted players, right? All the players we're about to talk about are either extremely fast, extremely strong, project to the NFL like long term, like 3-4 years down the road, really, really well. Guys that might not have the biggest impact year one, but in years 2 and 3 really start to emerge and blossom on this Jets roster. So it really just seems like a lot of the picks, most of the picks, were long-term plays, if you will. Now, look, I don't know if that's the exact plan going in or was the exact plan. I don't know if it's just how the board played out. But at the end of the day, the Jets walked away with some really good players here. So let's talk about the first-round pick, Will McDonald, defensive end, really defensive line chess piece, right? He's played at a bunch of different positions on the defensive line for Iowa State. Now, I think right off the bat, I'm back and forth between two, right? A C+ or a B-. What's interesting about Will McDonald, I really love the player. From a physical standpoint, he checks pretty much every box I want in a defensive lineman, maybe outside of the size and overall power, but it's going to come with time. Not every single rookie drafted in the middle of the first round is going to come in looking like Myles Garrett and Chase Young. So it's understandable. Physically, again, I really, really like McDonald from an experience standpoint, from a resume standpoint, from a defensive IQ standpoint. Even when we take a look at the numbers, right? Tackles for loss, sacks. Will McDonald, to me, is a solid player. He's a really, really solid player. And if McDonald was the pick for maybe another team out there, I would have given it an A. But I think the reason why I'm giving it a C+ B- here, number one, the system fit. I mean, we look at what the Cyclones ran for a long time now under Matt Campbell and John Heacock. It's a 3-3-5. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be a super easy transition where you can take Will McDonald and just throw him into this system and, we're going to watch this guy go get 9-10 sacks his rookie year. Granted, I'm not putting those expectations on him. I'm thinking more so like I'm hoping for like 6. That's kind of my hope, but understanding that we're really, really stacked at the position, McDonald will probably be a defensive end for the team, and we're just looking at the roster. I mean, Bryce Huff, first-round pick from last year, Jermaine Johnson, Carl Lawson on the roster as well. We still have to figure out what's going on with John Franklin Myers. I mean, he's on a really, sizable deal, and it doesn't really seem like he has a clear-cut role with the defensive line. Is he going to start opposite of Lawson? Are they going to kick him inside? And not to mention Michael Clements, another guy who I'm really excited about. So again, I love the player. I love the upside. I love how he projects to the NFL game, but specifically with the fit with the New York Jets, understanding the timetable, understanding that there is going to be somewhat of a systematic change here, and looking at the position and saying we're pretty solid at edge rusher. Granted, injuries happen. I want depth, but going into the draft, I was thinking that the Jets were going to do something else. Okay, so next up, round 2, pick 43, center from Wisconsin, Joe Tippmann. At 6'6", he comes in, fits the system, right? Fits what Nathaniel Hackett wants to do. He has athletic abilities. He's quick on his feet. He can pull well, get to the second level. I've seen a lot of people talk about how he might have to wait a year to crack the starting lineup because, Connor McGovern just got brought back on a 1-year contract. I'm not 100% sure. I wouldn't, if we get news that the Jets are rolling with Tippmann, or he dominates in training camp, or whatever the case may be, he's the starting center on day one, it's not going to be super, super shocking. So for me, I'm giving this an A. When I look at positional need, when I look at, again, system fit, when I look at floor and ceiling, Tippmann is really just checking off these boxes pretty effortlessly, physically, athletically. Also, we have to factor in where he stacks up against the rest of the centers in the class. On most, according to the draft insiders, on most teams' boards, he was the number 1 center in the class. If he wasn't number 1, at worst, he was number 2 behind John Michael Schmitz. So we're talking in the second round, potentially a day 1 starter as well. I think for me, I'm giving this draft pick an A. Okay, so our next pick, round 4, traded back from 112 to 120. The Jets went with tackle from Pitt, Carter Warren. A 6'6", 330-pound developmental tackle. For me, I'm giving this a C+. I think the thing that stands out the most for me when I'm looking at Warren is the experience. He's a 6th-year senior, so we look at the starts, has a ton of them under his belt. He's not going to come in to training camp as, just like completely wide-eyed. Hey, I've never done this before. I've only had 13 collegiate starts. Not in the least. Okay, now I will say he is coming off a season where he did tear his meniscus, right? Meniscus injury. It was a season ender. So we've seen Joe Douglas last year literally draft. Actually, on second thought, I do think Max Mitchell was a 4th-round pick. He went after a developmental tackle, right? That developmental tackle looked a lot further along. So I am hoping for somewhat of a similar situation here. But the reason why I'm giving it a C+, I like the player. It's just right now when I'm projecting him into this current lineup, it's looking like he's probably going to be the 3rd string, maybe 2nd string right tackle, because we have to factor in Max Mitchell coming back. We have to factor in Mekhi Becton coming back. Dwayne Brown probably going to be manning the left tackle position. Also, Joe Douglas not really ruling out any more moves to, potentially be made on the offensive line. That's actually another video that I have planned here. Maybe they target another free agent, right? With Aaron Rodgers, like we were talking about before, you want to be sure. You don't want to be rolling the dice on the offensive line at tackle out of all the positions, right? You want to be bulletproof there. So I think right now, I like the player, but I think right, unless he comes in and shocks everybody, we're looking at the depth chart right now. It's looking like we drafted a 3rd string tackle in round 4. Okay, so next up, running back from Pittsburgh, Izzy Benjamin. This is somebody who's going to be coming in with a ton of experience. He has 30 career games under his belt. I mean, everybody's been talking about the 20 rushing touchdowns last season in 11 games, by the way, but he also averaged 130 yards per game, rushing yards, and overall last season, he had over 1,400 rushing yards. He runs hard. He's built low to the ground, runs behind his pads. I think because Breece is coming off the injury, he could really see some time next season. Although I like Michael Carter a lot, I like Bam Knight a lot. We don't know. Like, I know the expectation is that Breece should be good to go by the start of the season, and that's fine. But in the event that he's not, that there's a setback, that he might be a little rusty early on, and we need somebody to carry some of the load, I think Izzy, he's the man for that. So for me, I'm giving this move a B to a B minus, somewhere in that range. Only reason, literally the only reason why it's not an A here is just because I feel really good about Michael Carter and I feel really good about Bam Knight. And like we were just saying, Breece is right now expected to be back for week 1. Okay, moving on to round 6 here, Zaire Barnes, linebacker from Western Michigan. Now, Barnes checks the box of being a player that's coming in at a position of need. He's a violent hitter, 6'1", 230. He has 49 career games under his belt, and one of the big things I've been reading a lot about here, a lot of the method behind this pick, is special teams fit. So for me, I'm giving it a C. I think when we're talking about Barnes as, like a starting linebacker, a backup linebacker, he was projected to the NFL as more so a 3-4 outside linebacker. So it is what it is. But again, it's a C pick for me. It's not elite, it's not an A, but it's definitely not like a horrendous pick where we're scratching our head saying, hey, we just passed on a franchise quarterback or a star edge rusher. What are we doing? I think if the Jets identified Barnes as a solid special teamer and he's going to have a role with the team, then make the pick. It's round 6. Okay, next up, sticking in round 6 here, cornerback/safety from Oklahoma State and LSU, Jarek Bernard-Converse. Right off the bat, he's a major position of need. He's versatile. He's played multiple positions: safety, outside cornerback, slot cornerback. 4 years at Oklahoma State, 1 year at LSU. He has length. He could develop behind guys, Clark and Whitehead here. There's not a final determination on what position he's exactly going to be playing. I think that's a cool thing that that Saleh and Ulbrich, they're going to watch him play, and then they're going to make a decision moving forward. Hey, we think you're going to be better at safety, corner, whatever the case is. But when I look at Converse, and of course the experience at the college level, understanding that he went up against Big 12 offenses week in, week out, and then SEC offenses week in, week out for one season, looking at his college, one of my personal favorite college coaches in the game, Jim Knowles, he was the Cowboys defensive coordinator, now he's with Ohio State. I mean, if you want to watch a hard-nosed defense, a versatile defense that throws a ton at offenses, right? It's really complex for a college defense. I mean, man, go watch Jim Knowles. He's an absolute beast. But we look at Converse, he actually had a ton of experience, a ton of playing time as a freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior with Oklahoma State. So for me, I'm giving this an A-. I think when I look at physically, right, length, speed, ball skills, and also knowing that he could be a special teamer as well, I think in round 6 here, you're getting a pretty polished individual, you're getting an experienced individual, and somebody who's going to be coming in with a pretty lengthy resume of things to like. And last but not least, round 7 here, tight end Old Dominion, Zach Coons. 6'7", 6'8", 230 pounds, all-conference CUSA in 2021, statistically one of the best tight ends in college football that season, racking up 73 catches, really athletic. Last season, though, had a season-ending injury. For me, I'm giving this pick a B+ A-. I think we have to understand where we're at. Round 7, we're selecting a guy here who, yes, he's coming in at a position where Uzama's on the roster, Ruckert's on the roster, Conklin's on the roster. It doesn't look like the Jets are going to be moving off those 3 guys anytime soon. A, because Ruckert's on the rookie deal, and then Joe Douglas restructured both veterans contracts. In other words, making it more difficult for the team to move off of either player, saving money in the short term, kicking the can down the road. But Coons was considered, again, one of the best tight ends in college football a year ago back in 2021. We look at him from an athletic standpoint. This guy can really move for his size, and he's 6'7", 6'8". There's not many guys built like him, especially in round 7 of the NFL draft. Okay, so you're drafting for the long-term development. So for me, I don't think the Jets could have gotten a better player here in round 7 than Coons. So I'm going to leave it there. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Where do you stand with this draft class? I think, again, overall, it was more of a long-term play. I was a little shocked at the approach going in, but at the end of the day, none of these players, in my opinion, are bad. The Jets didn't get worse. It just seems like we drafted a lot of players that probably will not be seeing the field this season that much. So anyway, let me know your thoughts, and as always, go Jets.